"If that is what you wish," he said as his gaze softened.
"Well, we've known each other far too long for you to get mushy on me," Winnifred quipped. "So how much time do I have?"
"It's hard to predict, but possibly about 8 months. Maybe just over a year if we're lucky."
"Well, that's plenty of time to put things in order," Winnifred replied. "Some people aren't so fortunate."
He gave her a wistful smile. "No, they're not. Now would you like to bring your son in so we can discuss it with him?"
Winnifred shook her head. "No need for that." She stood up. "I don't want to burden the poor boy until it's absolutely necessary."
Dr. Roberts stood up and accompanied her to the door. "I'll set up a series of appointments just to keep an eye on things," he said, taking her hands in his and giving them a gentle squeeze. "And you promise you will call me day or night if you're worried about anything or you feel ill."
"Thank you, James, I will,"
Winnifred replied, as the sting of tears pricked her eyes. She walked out of the office and down the corridor towards the reception area. Once she heard the doctor's door close, she paused, leaned on the handrail for support, and blinked away the tears. Taking in a couple of deep breaths, she tried to quiet the turmoil inside her. She had expected the diagnosis before she'd walked into the doctor's office. For several months her dreams had been dark and foreboding, making her remember a past she had tried to forget. Some would say it was just coincidence, but she believed something inside was trying to tell her all was far from well, and she had anticipated the worst. The finality of the diagnosis made her accept the inevitable and face her own mortality. Winnifred blew out a long breath along with the panic. The final outcome couldn't be changed. As far as she could see, there were only 2 options. The first was to spiral into fear and self-pity, and the second was to embrace the life she had left. Squaring her shoulders, she continued to the reception desk with a smile firmly placed on her mouth. She would use this time to savour the little things, put her affairs in order, and make sure her family knew just how much she loved them. There might even be enough time to meddle in the love life of one of her favourite people. He was desperately in need of a push in the right direction. She had always been good at matchmaking. People said she had a knack for it, so perhaps Felix could be her final triumph. A new project could be the distraction she needed. And besides, she thought to herself, at the end of all things, love is all that matters. Winnie ran as fast as she could onto the freshly cut lawn. She could smell the sweetness of the grass as the sun shone warmly down on her. The sky was an impossible blue, with barely a cloud, and several small birds chirped as they bopped up and through a tangle of blackberries by the old wire fence. A gust of cool air blew down from the ridge, tugging at her green cotton frock, before continuing on its way. It was the perfect day, and she would have liked to stay and savour the moment, but her companions ran ahead, and she was compelled to follow.
"Oh, come on, Winnie," called her sister in an exasperated voice. "You've got to at least try and keep up."
"I'm trying," she said quietly to herself as she tried to increase her speed. It was all very well for Alice. She was 2 years older and her legs were longer. Her cousin Charles looked back over his shoulder, the sun lighting up his reddish-brown hair. He paused so she could catch up.
"Hurry up, Winnie. The game will start and you'll end up being it," he said with a grin as he held out his hand.
Winnie grabbed his hand and willed herself to move a little faster as they ran together.
"Where are we going?"
Jemima, her other cousin, asked.
"Past the ridge," Alice
replied as she sprinted ahead of the others. She looked like a golden streak of light in her lemon-coloured dress, with her long blonde hair fanning out behind her. Winnie's footsteps slowed for a second.
"But we shouldn't. We're not allowed," she said with a frown as she glanced at Charles. "Oh, don't be a baby. No one's going to know," Alice called back with a laugh. "We'll be back before anyone misses us."
Winnifred Knightly slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she was able to hold on to the dream. She could still feel the sun warming her through the thin green cotton of her dress and smell the scent of freshly cut grass. She wanted to keep that memory close to her heart, to remember what it had been like to run with her sister and cousins through the paddocks of Peppercorn House and up to the gum-covered ridge. But by the time she drew in her second breath, the dream had faded like an old sepia photograph. Winnifred sighed and tried to sit up in bed.